Hello, my name is Ben Owens, and I have the distinct honor of being this year's Cherokee County Schools Teacher of the Year. Let me first say that deep in my heart, I feel like there are many of you that are far more deserving than I to receive this award. No teacher who knows the great work that many of you do on a daily basis, yet who do not receive this award, can accept it with anything other than great humility. Nevertheless, I'm immensely proud to be named the district's Teacher of the Year and will do everything I can to honor our noble profession as this year's recipient. When I was asked to make this video, I did a fair amount of research on the subject, and I found a lot of good examples of Teacher of the Year speeches and even a website on how to write a Teacher of the Year acceptance speech. The format, as you might expect, began with a long list of people to thank, followed by something profound each award winner had to say, such as famous quotes and feel-good or humorous anecdotes, and then general platitudes about how important our job is to the next generation. Then they concluded with more thanks and words that would inspire us to be the best we can be. Problem is that, like me, I suspect many of you are not feeling the love for our profession right now, particularly from leaders of this great state. We embark on yet another year with no pay increase. We're faced with fewer resources. We have bigger classroom sizes. We're losing tenure, and the list goes on. So how can I use the typical speech formula I described to make a difference in this type of environment for you and the students in your classroom? Well, I probably can't. In fact, to try to do so, in my opinion, would be, patronizing. So let me abandon that format and simply tell you what keeps me going in the face of such challenges and a little bit of my background. Most of you probably know that I'm relatively new to the teaching profession, having spent 20 years as in industry as an engineer. So the first and obvious question you'd be asking is, why in the world would anybody voluntarily leave a lucrative engineering career to become a school teacher? Believe me, I've been asked that hundreds of times, including a lot by my wife. Yet for me, the reason's quite simple. In quoting John F. Kennedy, "For of those to whom much is given, much is required." Having grown up in rural Appalachia in northeast Georgia, I know firsthand how hard it can be to break the cycle of economic hardship. But because a small group of educators took time to develop in me a passion for learning, I was able to ultimately attend an elite engineering school, work for a Fortune 15 company, DuPont, travel around the world, and live in many parts of this amazing country. So to me, teaching is not just a job, it's a moral obligation. And as cliche as it may sound, it's the reason I'm passionate about helping young people in the mountains of western North Carolina find pathways of success and opportunities, just like I did. Yet passion alone does not make a good teacher. So what I try to bring to the classroom every day is real-world experience from my former life and how it relates to what I call survival skills that, in my opinion, students must acquire and able to compete in today's tough global economy. Gone are the days where we can simply feel good about how our students are doing relative to those across the hall or elsewhere in the county or even schools in other parts of the state. The harsh fact is that our students are in a hard-knuckled economic fight for opportunity with students from Mumbai and Beijing and Cologne and Sao Paulo. The epiphany moment for me was the difficulty I and my colleagues in DuPont had when trying to hire high-quality employees from various locations across the U.S. We simply couldn't find enough talent from our local high schools and even colleges to fill high-paying jobs. So we had to, in some cases, look offshore to find the skill sets we needed. And this is not just some random antidote. It's happening across the U.S. right now, and even happening here in Cherokee County. And it was this firsthand reality that told me that the status quo was no longer acceptable. And I could either bellyache about it or, like many of our politicians, point fingers at the failings of our public schools or why our teachers aren't doing their jobs and things like that. Or I could jump in and do something about it. And that's why I chose to go to grad school and get my teaching credentials and ultimately start work for the early college in 2007. And since that time, I've been convinced that any student, regardless of their background or intended career, can thrive academically and kindle a passion for learning if they're simply given the chance to encounter the topics in ways that allow them to articulate and create and explore and evaluate ideas on their own terms. And when doing so, they see success in new ways, and they develop these critical life skills I mentioned, such as critical thinking, collaboration, innovation, problem solving, written and oral communication. And whether you call this a flipped classroom or student-centered learning or something else, the results are quite powerful. At least that's what I have found. And my role in that environment is to provide a relentless atmosphere of engagement, support, and interaction that allows each student to learn new material in a way that's specifically tailored for their experiences and what they bring to the table in terms of strengths. And I've found that simply by acting more as a facilitator and less as a traditional teacher, the students feel more engaged and more as active participants and contributors and true owners of their learning. Of course, this means that each class period is unpredictable and spontaneous. It's also fun. But I've got to be able to respond to any question or problem that students may have and then guide them into directions that maximize their individual learning. Is it easy? No. My wife, in fact, claims that I spend more time on this job than I did as an engineer, and she's usually right. But is it worth it? You bet. Because I know not only is it challenging and fun, but also I know that the students leave my classroom, they're better able to handle the challenges of the 21st century, whether they realize it or not. They also are able to have an immediate and significant impact on their families, communities, this region, and this country. So, with all that said, I guess I said I would stick to my story, but on this last point, I guess I want to offer something up that we can all strive for. And it's a way, perhaps, that we can restore the public's perception of education in general and the teaching profession in specific, and the vital impact that we have on our democracy. In other words, I would submit that if you are willing to work tirelessly to ensure that you're offering your students the best in terms of engagement and pathways for success, then you're also Teacher of the Year. If you look beyond your classroom and know in your bones that your instruction will help each and every student compete in today's global marketplace, then you're also Teacher of the Year. And if through your relentless actions as a professional educator, you cause people outside of your classroom, including parents and community leaders and even politicians, to renew unwavering support for public education and the teaching profession, then you're also Teacher of the Year. This is what constantly reminds me why teaching is so vitally important and why I have no regrets on my career change. And despite whatever is thrown at me, it drives my constant passion to be a great teacher. So let me close by thanking the countless friends and family and colleagues and, yes, students who have helped me along the way develop my craft and reach this surprising and humbling pinnacle in my relatively short teaching career. Let me also thank my father, Bob Owens, who unfortunately never lived to see me become a teacher. As an educator for most of his life, he changed the lives of countless students, and he remains my constant role model and inspiration. And it's in his memory that I'll be contributing the monetary portion of this award to the Legacy Fund in his name at North Georgia University. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I wish all of you the very best for this school year.